take all we got, we gon' make it. Show the world that it's shining our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control, take a shot, what you waiting for? Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it.
This is your host, Colin F. Watson, in the house. And this is another episode of The Up-Leveled Man. I just want to bring content that's actually valid and that I feel and I hear in my heart versus just coming on to do something. So I have an interesting topic today that's actually been on my heart for a while. I wasn't sure how to word it. I wasn't sure how to, I really wanted to make the impact in the title. So the title of this show is Your Wife is Not Invisible, but you continue to not see her, she may vanish. And what do I mean by that? As you've heard me mention before, that in my coaching business, fitness, weight release, and life coach, majority of my clients are women. And it's just been one of those things. And I used to question why. And then I realized that I needed to stop questioning why, because I have developed myself into a man that can hold space for the masculine and for the feminine. And I think that's really important, where a place where I can create a container where women can feel safe, and they can actually, so I can get deep into what's really bothering them, what's causing them to put on the weight or hold on to the weight. And in turn, in that weight release journey, it turns more into a life journey. It turns into what the real reasons why the weight may be there. I have found that many times women that tend to be carrying extra weight, it's usually a defense mechanism, a protection of some sort. In some cases, it could be from some early traumas. From some cases, it could be from recent trauma. And in many cases, it's from dysfunctional relationships. And it's almost like a subconscious thing that cushion of protection puts on. So women start to put on weight. Usually their spouses tend to not be as touchy-feely, not be as intimate. So it could be a lose-lose or a win-win, depending on what your outcome is that you're seeking. But I don't think most people want to carry around an extra 30, 40, 50 pounds just to keep their husbands at bay or keep their husbands at distance, as I say. And that's just my theory and my opinion. I've had many women validate that, but if you listen to this, you may say it has nothing to do with it. But I do find that it has been my experience that extra weight on both men and women are some sort of protection. It could be hormonal, it could be injury caused. If it's a temporary weight gain, it's something that just came on and it's only been around for a few months. Yes, of course, that could be due to something else, but usually gradual weight gain that's been prolonged and stuck around for a while. It's usually that needs to be released, not only physically, but emotionally. So why am I having this topic today about your wife is not invisible? Because one of the themes that I've come across in listening to my clients over the years, and especially this year, and it seems to be, at first it was kind of like, I thought it was interesting that it was my clients in the 40s and the 50s and even in the 60s, but I even have a client clients in the 30s now, that it seems to be this conversation going along about their awakening. Women are becoming more evolved. And what I mean by that is that a lot of my clients are already very successful women. Money is not their problem. They make good money. They have really great careers. They get a lot of feedback and adoration from the industries they're in or from the teams that they run, from the environment they're in. And the one place they're not getting the most support is from the person that usually means the most to them, and that's their husbands or their spouses, significant others, and partners. And so I wanted to open this conversation because I do believe there's a lot of men out there that are going to be blindsided and have been blindsided when their wife just comes to them one day and says, I'm done. And there's one thing about a woman: when a woman's done is done. Is a song about that. That is not a cliche. When a woman is done, and she's basically fought she's done all the fighting, all the leading, trying to get through to that spouse that wants to stay stuck. And then one day they just wake up and go, okay, I'm done. Then the wake-up call is too late for you to do anything about. And that's when it gets really sad and really desperate and really painful, because then the light goes off way too late and then now you're trying to fix it and you can't. There's nothing you can do to fix it. So I wanted to have this conversation. I'm hoping that maybe one man will hear this podcast and kind of go, is this me? Is this how I'm showing up? Do I love my wife? And do I love her enough to up level? And that's what this conversation is about. So I find that in these conversations that I'm having with clients on a daily basis, my job is to hold the mirror up and focus and have them focus back on them. I make it very clear that the journey that we're about to go on is about them. And it's not about their boyfriends or husbands or spouses. It's not about their kids. It's not about their employers. It's not about their job. It's about them. It's about them getting to the root of what is causing the pain, figuring out how motivated or inspired they are to get to the other side of this. And usually they have everything else in their life by the ass. Good mothers, good bosses or employees, and their relationship is the one thing they're suffering. And the number one complaint that I get is that I'm doing all this work on myself. And a lot of times they're members of executive programs or coaching programs. They obviously hired me as a coach, and I'm sometimes not the only coach they have. And yet their spouses or significant others or boyfriends or partners are still comfortable being in the same place they were 10 years ago. And they figure the longer the relationship goes on, the more secure they're going to be in that relationship. And I'm just noticing this trend that I want to talk about today, that I'm finding more and more women, especially these women in their 50s and 60s, that have been with their men for 15, 20, 30 years, that they're ready to level up themselves and realize, and the question they're asking themselves is, if they're 50 or 60, they got another 30 years plus on the planet. Do I want to spend the next 30 years of my life with this person who is not looking to change, who's not looking to grow, who does not want to do anything but stay the way they are? And more and more the answer is becoming no, they don't want to stay there. And that's what the part when I look and I go, I would hate to be that guy that just didn't know what to do and had the opportunity to actually listen and hear their spouses and just be present for them in order for them to feel seen, heard, and loved. If your spouse is not feeling seen, heard, or loved, the relationship is going to, number one, probably feel very either disconnected or tumultuous. Or it's just going to be one of these quiet places that you guys are like two ships in the night walking, just passing each other, and the silence is deafening, but no one wants to break the silence, or it's a very superficial conversation. It's basically, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. What do you want? I don't care. And you sit down and you actually have no conversation across the dinner table, or you eat dinner completely different places in the house. How do I know all this? I've been here, right? I've been here. So when I hear them have these complaints, it could take me back to the times when I was not present. There was times where I was just chasing the dollar, and I thought that was love. I figured if I made enough money for my wife, if I got her enough shit and got her enough house and car and all that kind of stuff, and I was working around the clock in my head and my phone and my computer 24/7, but I was hustling, she would know I love her. And when you hear your spouse going, can you put down your phone? Can you get out of your computer? Or they're complaining that you're always in your phone, and they're telling their friends, well, he doesn't know. His head's always in his phone. His head's always in his computer. That's usually a sign that they're not being seen. And it takes a lot for a woman to build up that level of resistance or resentment towards their man. And it starts to show up in a little bit of the griping, a little bit of the complaining, the bitching, the nitpicking at simple little things just to get your fucking attention, just to get you to pay attention. I had a friend of mine was sharing an experience yesterday where she was in a container in a coaching program doing some work, and one of the exercises was doing some inner child work, and she was going through the exercises, and she realized she tapped into something that was very powerful for her. It's an aha moment that she got that was painful yet exciting, because the bell went off and she connected some dots. And she walked into her house and she went to her husband and wanted to share this breakthrough. And he was on his computer, and his response was, yeah, that sounds good, honey. Yeah. That moment in that moment, she completely shut down. In that moment, from that point on, anything you say to her would never be heard. It would not be heard. And this happens a lot in relationships. A lot. Where you're not present and your wife is speaking to you or sharing something with you. And some of you men may feel the other way around. It may be completely reversed, but it's having the conversation, right? And hopefully this will stir up some conversation. But ultimately, the lack of communication and the lack of willingness to shift. If you find that your wife is getting in better shape, she's focusing on herself, she's wanting to lose weight, get in shape, she's, a lot of times you don't even know if she's doing it or not. A lot of times it's kept secret. I can't tell you how many people are working with me and their spouses don't know, because there's like, I don't want to hear the negative content. I don't want to hear their negative feedback. I don't want to hear them saying, why am I wasting my money with this, that, and the other thing, because they don't think it's valuable. But I want you guys to start paying attention. If you have a relationship that's even remotely similar to what I'm describing here, if you're having a disconnect, you're not having enough sex, or if you're having sex and you're the only one enjoying it because you figure, well, we're having sex because I'm actually being the aggressive and doing the sex, and the wife is just sitting there going, okay. But if she's not enjoying it, or if she's faking it, there's a whole lot of shit to be going on there. Because sometimes these guys think, well, my relationship is great because we have sex every day, and yet your wife is quietly telling her girlfriends and their coaches how much they can't stand having sex, and how they just feel used as like a vessel to receive your whatever, and how it has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. And in some cases that they detest the whole concept of having sex with their spouse, but they let them go ahead and do it because it's just better to let them get it over with than to argue with them. This sounds like pretty fucked up shit. I get it. But I'm being honest, these are the conversations that I've had and I have very often. And often enough for me to have come on the show and make this topic and have this conversation. I may change the title of the podcast. I want it to be as alarming as possible, to be honest with you, because I really think this needs to be brought to the forefront. There are a lot of women out there that are in pain, and they're doing the work, and they're doing their best to either improve themselves, connect back to themselves, feel like themselves again, because they either had babies and they're carrying around this weight around, or they're just sad and mad, and they've been compressing this stuff. And they don't have a trusted partner in the house that actually has compassion enough to listen to them. Now, I have other clients that have amazing men in their life. And they're here to do the work and to get in shape and to find themselves so they can actually give all of themselves back to their spouses, because their spouses are such amazing men. And they're tired of being disconnected from them. They're tired of feeling shame-filled and hiding their body and not wanting to be touched or have sex because they don't feel good in their skin. There are those. But the reason we're having this conversation, because the amount of amazing husbands and spouses versus the ones that are disconnected, are too busy working, too busy chasing other shit, too busy thinking the grass is greener on the other side, too busy ignoring their own selves, those are the ones that are showing up the most. And that saddens me. And I created this podcast to reach men. And it's funny, I'm still reaching women. Maybe my call is just I need to be that space for women. Maybe I need to stop fighting it. To try and find you guys out there that are willing to step up and listen and actually shift and do something fucking about it. Because I gotta tell you, it's like the most of the comments I get it from my guy friends that follow me. But most of the comments I get are from women going, thank you for having the conversation. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for sharing that. And the fucking men are just deaf. They're not listening, right? And maybe I'm not positioning myself correctly. I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers, just making observations. That it's like, are we that stuck in our ways as a masculine energy that we figure that our shit doesn't stink and we don't need to show up, and we don't need to change or do something different. If you've been the same guy doing the same thing, over and over again for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and it's not lighting your wife up and turning her on, and that she's not looking at you with those Bambi eyes thinking how fucking amazing you are, that's a fucking problem. And I want you to be open to listening and hearing the problem. And the shift doesn't have to be some major thing. So guys think, well, I don't want to fucking change. I've been this way all my life. If you don't like me this way, fine. Yeah, that's a good that's a real powerful statement to say until you fucking get the divorce papers. Until half your shit is gone. Which is sometimes more than half your shit is gone. And then you say, what did I do? I don't get it. I gave her everything. You gave her everything but the one thing she wanted, the one thing she was asking you for that you were too deaf to hear. And that was see me, hear me, love me. Anyway, this message doesn't have to be long, I guess. I just hope it lands on somebody out there that is willing to level up and step up and actually be the man, be the champion, be the warrior that their wives fell in love with. Because there's no way in hell that that person would be dating you right now, sleeping with you in the same room, in the bed with you, married to you for 10 or 15 years, or even married you in the very beginning, if you actually showed up the way you're showing up right now. I dare one guy to comment on this thing. Yeah, I was the same guy that when I met my wife that I am right now, and if you are and you were amazing then and you're still amazing now, you probably still have a very happy wife. But if your wife is not really happy right now, and she's disconnected and she's kind of not engaged, the odds are you're not showing up the same way you showed up when you met her. And if you were this guy that doesn't want to bend, doesn't want to fold, doesn't want to learn, doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to take in any kind of new information and expand his knowledge horizons, his level of intimacy, his level of vulnerability, if you were that guy when you met that spouse, that amazing lady that's in your life, fucking you wouldn't be married to her. She would have passed on you. And she's about to pass on you now. That's what I'm trying to fucking tell you. You may think I don't know the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm telling you right now, I could probably have 5 women in my current program now that are looking for the exit. They're looking for the way, how to figure that shit out, how to navigate that shit. Because they're done, or they're really super close to being done. That just happens to be the facts right now. So I'm going to encourage you. There's a couple things that you may want to look into. Number one, if your wife's working on herself, go work on yourself. Find a counselor, find a therapist, find a coach, find somebody that can hold a mirror up for you and give you the honest truth of how you're fucking showing up. You'll do that for money. You'll do that for fame. You'll take advice to get the one thing you want, and you think the one thing you really have is probably the most important to you that you're taking for granted. You're not willing to go to counseling. You're not willing to get a therapist. You're not willing to get a coach because that's just not you, or you're too macho for it, or you're too smart for it, or you're too arrogant for it, or whatever the case may be. But if your wife is looking for answers someplace else and she's out there doing the work, you either follow her lead or find yourself left behind. Only 2 things happen. When one person shifts, and it doesn't matter if it's the husband or the wife, when one person shifts to improve themselves for better, another world opens up, another frequency opens up. They start seeing people showing up in the world and treating them the way they want to be treated. Men, women, colleagues alike. And they go, this shit feels good. What I'm getting right here doesn't feel so fucking good, and it hasn't felt good for a very long time. So maybe I start looking for another opportunity. I tell you, the whole view, I think at a certain age, people start looking to their future and going, do I want to spend the next year, 5, 10, 15 years with and in the same position I am right now? And if the answer is no, you may have a short leash. Short time span. And there's some women that will never leave. Some women that are just afraid. And there's some women that maybe not positioned to do that. But then that leaves you to a life of mediocrity and unhappiness for the next 10 to 15, 20 years. And that, to me, breaks my heart. I think we all should be able to laugh and thrive and love the people that we're with, adore them, and have great sex and great intimacy and great conversation and great joy and laughter. And that comes with communication. That comes with seeing each other. So, I want to leave that with you today. That was on my heart. That is this episode of The Upleveled Man. I hope this lands on somebody. I hope somebody who needs this message will hear it, heed it, and do something about it. And if you guys want an amazing counselor, I believe he'll work with anybody where you are in the country. Leave me a message, DM me, private message me on Facebook at Colin F. Watson, and I'll give you a number of a guy that I think will change your life, that I trust, that saved mine, saved my marriage, saved me. So if you need that help, just reach out. Happy to share that with you. In the meantime, I wish you a happy Saturday. Namaste. Light in me meets and sees and greets the amazing light in you. And I hope you start to really see, listen, and love your wives and spouses and girlfriends and significant others and partners. It's important. Namaste. Peace out.
Take or without, we gon' make it. Show the world that I shine in our greatness. Keep it real, never gon' fake this. Till we make it, till we make it. Taking off, flying high like a spaceship. Take control,